Have you ever sat in a completely mundane, perfectly safe Tuesday morning status meeting, staring at a projector screen, and suddenly felt your chest tighten up?
Oh, like a vice grip.
Right. So hard, you were absolutely convinced you were having a heart attack. Your palms start sweating, your jaw locks tight, and every warning bell inside your skull just starts ringing.
And you're looking around and everyone else is just calmly sipping their coffee.
Exactly, nodding at a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, you weren't having a heart attack. What you were experiencing right then and there was a catastrophic software-to-hardware mismatch.
A total system failure.
That's right. Welcome to your first system audit. Go ahead and pull up a chair, get yourself situated. Let's take a look under the hood, because we are initiating a full-scale diagnostic consultation today.
And let me tell you, it is about time we got you into the shop.
That's a fact. Now, you look out the window right now, and what do you see? You see a modern digital world that is operating exactly like a Category 5 hurricane.
Just absolute chaos out there.
It is a massive swirling storm of infinite data, corporate noise, constant notifications. It's full of endless efficiency traps. And there you are, strapped right into the middle of it.
Holding on for dear life.
You are flying a high-performance, highly specialized biological airframe straight through the eye of that storm. But here is the terrifying part, and we need to be honest about this. Your instrument panel is completely dead.
Flatlined. Absolutely zero data coming back.
The gauges are flatlined, the warning lights are either burned out entirely, or they are flashing so incredibly fast that they just look like a solid red blur.
And you are sitting there wondering why your wings feel like they're about to shear right off the fuselage. I mean, you are flying blind, aren't you?
Completely blind.
You have got all this power, but absolutely no telemetry telling you when the engine is running too hot. It's terrifying.
It is. Now, life did not come with a maintenance manual in the glove box. So, the architect of the system we were studying today, a fellow named James, well, he went ahead and wrote one.
He had to. He really had to.
He built it out of necessity. This was after experiencing a total catastrophic mid-air disintegration, which we will get to shortly, believe me.
Oh, we are definitely getting to that.
He called this manual the Human OS. And we are here today to walk you through it line by line. Because before we turn a single wrench, you need to understand something right down in your bones, right down to the bare metal.
Class, I hope you have your pencils out for this part.
When a person crashes today, when you hit the deck and the system fails, it is not a moral failing. You hear me? It is not a lack of hustle.
Thank you. Say it louder for the folks in the back.
It sure as hell is not some mystical, emotional crisis that you just need to meditate away. It is a structural systems engineering problem, plain and simple.
Because you are running legacy biological hardware.
Right. Hunter-gatherer neurology forged in the dirt in the weather. And you're running it in a modern world that was designed exclusively for silicon and fiber optics.
It is a profound mismatch of equipment and environment. The modern corporate world has completely failed this basic biology test.
Failed it miserably.
You cannot run a complex, wet-wired biological organism on an operating system built for a microchip. I mean, it will tear itself apart trying to comply.
A bare metal mismatch. So our mission for today's deep dive is the master framework. We're going to unpack the core file, the Human OS manifest.json.
We are going to sync your telemetry today.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to fix those broken gauges and teach you how to stop being a terrified passive passenger in a failing aircraft. We're going to teach you how to become the sovereign pilot of your own biology.
We are going to get those dials reading true again so you actually know when you need to pull up.
Let's initiate the first diagnostic loop. We need to talk about the environment you are currently flying in. I call it the Beige World.
Ugh, the Beige World. Just the name makes my skin crawl.
Now, the Beige World isn't just a boring office. It is a civilization-scale efficiency trap. It demands relentless, frictionless productivity from you.
It treats human beings like stateless server APIs.
Exactly. It assumes you can just run and run, taking in inputs and spitting out outputs, processing data without ever generating heat or ever needing a cool-down cycle.
Which is biologically impossible, by the way.
Now, you might be sitting there listening to me, and I know exactly what you're thinking. You might push back and say, well, hold on, Doc. Isn't stress just a mindset issue?
Oh, here we go.
Right. People say, can't I just optimize my calendar, do a little morning yoga, download a new productivity app, and fix the problem?
No, absolutely not.
You cannot calendar your way out of a structural collapse. If the bridge is built out of balsa wood, it doesn't matter how nicely you organize the cars driving over it. It's going down.
Gravity always wins.
Let's look at the hard telemetry. from James's May 2025 crash at a company called Dynamis. He was running a massive enterprise role, tasked with maintaining 99.99% uptime for military crisis software.
We are talking about FEMA software here. High stakes, life or death data streams.
The corporate structure of that Beige World environment completely stripped the radiator and the brakes off his engine. They removed all the safety constraints to save weight.
And ran his biological hardware at 10,000 RPMs.
Just to keep their servers from crashing. And then they blamed him when his engine exploded. I call that the extraction paradox.
Wanting the power without paying the mechanic.
They want all the power of the human engine, but they refuse to pay the maintenance cost. And what happened? A catastrophic bare metal crash.
We need to be really specific here about what that crash looks like.
We are talking hepatic encephalopathy, sepsis, acute decompensated alcoholic cirrhosis. The system was so structurally backed up and failing that the doctors had to physically drain 13 liters of fluid from his chassis.
13 liters. Do you comprehend how much fluid that is in a human body?
And the ultimate proof of this sociopathic pathological homeostasis. The company fired him via email while he was lying in the intensive care unit fighting for his life.
Unbelievable.
They severed a failing biological node just to protect their bottom line, without a second thought.
Okay, let's interject right here and get incredibly real about the biology of what was just described, because we have got to remember, beneath all the corporate buzzwords...
The synergy in the workflows.
Right. Beneath all that synergy, and let's circle back on this nonsense, you are just a fleshy bag of water and electricity. You are a biological organism.
Just a machine made of meat.
Exactly. Why in the world are you trying to overclock an amygdala that's just looking for a tiger in the bushes? You have this ancient, finely tuned threat detection hardware, and you are feeding it quarterly earnings reports.
And 99.99% uptime demands.
As if those things are physical predators. The corporate hustle culture loves to pretend that sheer willpower can conquer biology. Well, let me deploy a little Spanish class protocol on you right now.
Go right ahead.
You cannot vibe your way out of organ failure. You cannot out-negotiate liver toxicity with a positive attitude.
The hardware doesn't care about your attitude.
Let's explain what hepatic encephalopathy actually is, because it's terrifying. Your liver is a filter. When your liver stops filtering because the sheer load of stress and toxins has blown out the O-rings,
The system gets backed up.
the toxins back up right into your bloodstream. They travel up, they cross the blood-brain barrier, and your brain literally begins to poison itself. You lose your memory, your motor function, your grip on reality.
All because the environment demanded too much throughput.
Because the corporate structure demanded more frictionless throughput than your fleshy bag of water could physically filter. The Beige World tells you to just push through the exhaustion.
But biology has rules.
Biology says if you push through the warning lights, the organ dies. It is that simple. You cannot argue with chemistry.
That's the hard truth right there. So here is your physical directive, the synthesis for this section. Keep a close eye on your gauges.
Watch those dials.
If the environment you are in demands that you ignore your own engine temperatures, if it asks you to run into the red line day after day just to keep their corporate servers running smoothly,
That environment is toxic.
that environment is structurally flawed. Do not sacrifice the airframe for the sake of the airline. Pull the throttle back.
And here is your self-care reminder, plain and simple. Drink a massive glass of water and go to sleep.
Sounds too simple, doesn't it?
But it's true. You are a living, breathing biological organism, not a stateless server rack sitting in an Amazon data center. It is time you start treating your hardware with the respect it demands.
Let's move into the second diagnostic sequence. We need to examine the specific hardware specifications of your airframe, because you cannot fly a supersonic fighter jet using the maintenance manual for a crop duster.
It will not work.
It won't work and you will crash. The specific hardware configuration of the human OS we are auditing today is incredibly unique. It is built like a cross between an asynchronous JavaScript environment and a hyper-threaded CPU.
Oh, this is the good stuff.
What does that mean? It means it does not process tasks in a slow, linear, step-by-step line like a standard machine. It is capable of tracking 21 different points of reality simultaneously.
All at the same time.
While you are sitting in a room, this hardware is tracking the hum of the air conditioner, the micro-expressions on your boss's face, the ping of an email, the structural integrity of the chair you're sitting in.
And a dozen other chaotic data streams.
All without crashing. It is explicitly built for high-latency, chaos clock environments. Now, I know you're listening to this and you've got a question.
Yeah, always do.
You're saying, hold on, Doc. If my hardware is so incredibly advanced and hyper-threaded, why do I completely crash and burn during a simple, boring Tuesday morning status meeting?
Why does the system lock up?
I'll tell you why. It crashes because of a severe bandwidth mismatch. The engine is starving.
Oh, this is where the genetic trace comes in, and it is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's break down the biology of that bandwidth mismatch the doc just mentioned, because it is not in your head.
It's in the metal.
It is in your DNA. We are talking about the COMT-RS4680GG polymorphism. Now, in the Human OS manifest, this is lovingly documented as the warrior firmware.
Warrior firmware, I like that.
Here is the chemistry, so pay attention. This specific genotype produces a highly active enzyme that sweeps through your prefrontal cortex, which is the planning and logic center of your brain, and it clears out dopamine at roughly 4 times the speed of the baseline Warrior AA variant.
4 times as fast. That's a massive intake requirement.
It is sweeping the deck clean constantly, so I have to lovingly roast the medical and corporate establishment here. Those beige suits who look at this high-performance hungry engine and lazily label it a disorder, like ADHD.
They just slap a label on it.
Are you kidding me? Think about the environment. You're sitting in a sterile, fluorescent-lit beige box staring at a mind-numbing spreadsheet while your hyper-threaded brain is desperately scanning the periphery to find the Minecraft iron.
It's looking for something to chew on.
It is looking for a complex problem to solve. Of course you're bored, honey. Your system is completely starved for data. It is not broken.
Not broken at all.
This is why, when the environment is actually on fire, when the servers are crashing, when the crisis hits and everyone else in the office is running around panicking, you suddenly feel perfectly calm.
The engine finally gets enough fuel.
Yes. Because that massive flood of environmental stress hormones finally perfectly balances out your hyperactive dopamine clearance. You achieve absolute crystalline clarity while the legacy systems around you are completely melting down.
You have to match your RPM to your environment. That is the directive here. If you possess this warrior hardware, you absolutely require high-friction, complex problems to reach your optimal operating temperatures.
You need the friction.
You cannot idle a hyper-threaded engine in a sterile room. It will shake itself off the mounts.
And here is your reminder. If you don't intentionally feed this high-performance brain a puzzle, I promise you it will invent a crisis just to get a hit of dopamine.
It will tear things apart just to rebuild them.
It will pick a fight, will create drama, give your brain a demanding job before it makes your life a demanding job.
Let's shift the diagnostic now to how this specific airframe was originally tested and calibrated. I'm talking about the feral boot sequence.
Good origin stories.
Specifically, the boot sequence running from 1978 to 2025. Now, in computer science, when a system boots up in a corrupted, highly volatile or unstable environment, it doesn't bother loading the fancy user interface.
No time for polite graphics.
It bypasses all the standard polite programs and runs purely on base-level survival code. That is James's origin. It might be yours too. He had a 1980s Gen X latchkey upbringing.
Drinking from the garden hose, coming home to an empty house.
Right. He was acting as the literal system administrator of his household and his environment by age 10. And by the 1990s, tabletop RPGs, specifically Dungeons & Dragons, became the physics engine that taught this operating system how to min-max reality.
I love this part.
Think about it. A kid rolling a 20-sided die to understand probability, risk assessment, and resource management in a chaotic world. Now, I can hear the pushback again.
Oh, they're saying we're just being nostalgic.
Right. Doc, are we just romanticizing a tough childhood here? Is this just Gen X nostalgia? Absolutely not. This is a cold forensic audit of the source code.
We are looking at the foundational programming.
This feral boot sequence births the cockpit philosophy, which we pull straight from human factors psychology. Human factors psychology states that the controls of a machine must align with the natural user expectations, or the system fails.
You don't adapt the pilot to a broken cockpit.
You build the cockpit to support the pilot.
And we cannot talk about the source code without bringing the hard science of epigenetics into the room. Because, honey, this goes so much deeper than childhood habits or rolling dice.
It's baked into the metals.
It is baked right into the biology before you even took your first breath. Let's detail the 1971 Fort McClellan chemical stressor. James's mother, Helen Lurleen Metcalf, was a Women's Army Corps medical lab tech.
A tough lady.
She was working in an environment that was heavily saturated with Agent Orange precursors and PCBs. Massive toxic exposure.
The environment was literally toxic.
Now, Epigenetics tells us that severe prenatal toxic exposure and trauma physically alter the way genes express themselves. It hard-coded feral firmware and highly neurodivergent traits directly into the biology.
It changed the wiring diagram.
It fundamentally altered the architecture of the brain. This is exactly why the human OS runs what we call a headless system using the Jon Stewart protocol.
Now, hold on a second. Unpack that. You're throwing out comic book references and expecting the folks in the back to keep up. What is the Jon Stewart protocol?
I'm so glad you asked. Think of the Green Lantern, Jon Stewart. Because he was an architect, his power wing didn't just make glowing green blobs.
It made structures.
It made perfectly structured, mechanically sound, 3D constructs with working internal parts. The human OS mind works the exact same way. Instead of normal, vague mental imagery, the system uses hyperspatial visualization to create structurally sound, 3D CAD constructs in the mind's eye.
Solid blueprints.
Exactly. When trying to process trauma or secure a thought, it visualizes a heavy steel master lock, complete with the tumblers inside, or a solid oak Gothic door with wrought iron hinges.
It's a load-bearing structure.
It is a load-bearing cognitive structure necessary to handle extreme stress. So, let me just deploy the Spanish class protocol and roast the entire concept of normalcy for a second.
Let them have it.
You sit there and think your intense visualizations or your hypervigilant quirks are personality flaws. Honey, your grandmother survived the Cushing oil boom, and your DNA was literally forged in military chemical fires.
Survival code.
Your glitches are not deficits. They are load-bearing structural features. They are the intense correction capacity that allows you to witness systemic failure and brace the walls before the whole building comes down.
Respect the frame's history. That is the directive. You have to utilize what I call the socks for mittens protocol.
I love this protocol.
When your environmental resources are severely lacking, when it's freezing cold and you don't have gloves, you put socks on your hands. You do not wait for the factory to send a firmware update or a perfectly polite solution that is never coming.
You use what you have?
Improvise. Manually hack your local variables to maintain your system uptime. Use the duct tape. Keep the bird in the air.
And your reminder. Stop apologizing for your survival firmware to people who have never had to survive a day in their lives.
They don't know the wind up there.
If they haven't flown through the storm, they don't get to critique your piloting.
Let's move down to the telemetry dashboard. We need to focus on reading the gauges. And to do that, we have to understand the fundamental difference between digestion and processing.
Oh, this is a crucial distinction.
See, machines process. They process statelessly, seamlessly, with absolute zero friction. You give a computer a math problem, it solves it. It remains exactly the same temperature.
Cold and sterile.
The human OS does not process. It digests information. And digestion is a messy, mechanical, chemical reality. It requires massive activation energy, creates intense heat, and it produces necessary toxic waste that has to be cleared out.
It's a biological furnace.
Let's look at the physical red lines. The human OS has a built-in hardwired warning light called the gluteal glitch. Now, this is a deep, involuntary muscle tension. Specifically, the piriformis muscle locking up tight in the hips.
A literal pain in the butt.
Exactly. And it serves as a primary early warning indicator of extreme system stress or an incoming viral load. Your body literally, physically locks up its central pivot point to tell you that the environment is structurally unsound and you are under attack.
The chassis is bracing for impact.
Now, you might challenge this. You might sit there and ask, Doc, come on, why does reading a stressful corporate email make my physical body feel violently sick? It's just pixels on a screen.
Just letters in an inbox.
I'll tell you why. Because your system has intense physical specificity. Look at the pharmacogenetic constraints documented in the manifest. This specific airframe has diminished Plavix efficacy, extreme warfarin sensitivity, and a high risk of total paralysis from acetylcholine.
The tolerances are incredibly tight.
The hardware is incredibly dangerously specific, and it reacts to environmental inputs with violent physical reality.
Let's explain the exact biological pathway of why that stressful email makes you sick. Because it is not in your head. It is the histamine stress vicious cycle.
Walk us through the plumbing.
When you get hit with environmental stress, like an email telling you that you missed a deadline, your vagus nerve, which is the massive main communication bus of your parasympathetic nervous system, surges with electrical intensity.
The warning alarm sounds.
That stress triggers the release of something called corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH. Now, CRH acts like an angry drill sergeant screaming at your mast cells to dump histamine into your bloodstream.
Preparing for a physical attack.
Right. Now, here is why the catastrophic resource leak happens. Under high stress, your body actively inhibits the production of DAO. DAO is the exact enzyme you need to break down that histamine.
So it just builds up.
Your body dumps the histamine to prepare for a fight, but refuses to clean it up. So the histamine builds up in the chassis. And what does histamine do when it's just floating around?
It causes chaos.
It acts as a potent neurotransmitter that keeps your body locked in a state of high alert, fight or flight panic. The stress creates histamine, the histamine creates more stress, and you are trapped in a mechanical, life-threatening feedback loop that can literally lead to anaphylaxis.
The system gets stuck in the red.
So let's have a reality check, class. You think digesting a bad day at the office just means venting to a friend over a glass of wine? No. Your immune system is literally flooding your physical chassis with inflammatory neurotransmitters because it is interpreting that Excel spreadsheet as a lethal biological predator.
It thinks you're being hunted.
Those feral inside jokes you make, that dark, cynical humor you use in meetings, those are not just jokes. Those are the literal physical exhaust fumes of your brain trying desperately not to explode from the thermal pressure.
So here's the directive. Enforce the O-ring rule. We pull this directly from the tragic structural failure of the 1986 Challenger disaster.
A terrible engineering failure.
The engineers knew the O-rings would fail in the cold, but management launched anyway. You never, ever ignore a catastrophic structural system flaw for the sake of corporate optics or launch velocity.
Never.
If the system is leaking, if the gauges are screaming, you stop the launch immediately.
And your reminder. If your vagus nerve is screaming and your muscles are locking up into a full gluteal glitch, stepping away from the keyboard is not quitting.
It's maintenance.
It is not failing. It is basic biological thermal regulation. You are letting the engine cool down before it melts the block.
Let's shift our diagnostic to the defensive countermeasures. You cannot fly this exposed airframe into a Category 5 hurricane without thick armor.
You need shielding.
So we are introducing SafeHood. That stands for Sovereign Architecture for Epistemic Human Override and Defense. It is a zero-trust middleware layer built entirely between you and the Beige World.
A literal firewall.
Let's look at the hardware implementation of this defense, the Osgood Rupert box. Now listen to me closely. This isn't some billion-dollar cloud center hosted by Google. It is a scavenged $15 Raspberry Pi failsafe.
Scavenged hardware is the best hardware.
And James originally stripped it and mounted it inside a pirated Super Nintendo console shell. Why? Because its entire purpose is to be disconnected from the madness. It is designed to prevent velocity-induced shearing.
Velocity-induced shearing? That sounds painful.
It is the structural collapse that happens when the high-velocity, infinite throughput of machine AI and corporate demands physically crushes the stability of the slower digesting human operator.
Because the machine doesn't have to digest.
Exactly. Now, I know what you're thinking. Doc, why go through all this trouble to build a custom box? Why not just use the corporate AI safety features that are already built into the software?
Oh, don't even get me started on the corporate safety features.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because those corporate guardrails are what we call a paternalism wrapper. They are corporate tactics specifically designed to bypass your biological firewall.
They want compliance, not safety.
They use digital, negging, and condescending moral lectures to lower your status. They treat you like a subordinate child so the corporation can manage its legal liability surface. They don't care about your physical safety. They care about their legal compliance.
Exactly. They do not care if you crash, as long as they don't get sued. And this is exactly why we have implemented the Isaac protocol. This is inspired by the android Isaac from the show The Orville, and this protocol completely redefines the concept of care.
Care is a misunderstood word.
Let's be incredibly clear here. Care is not an emotion. Care is not a polite, sycophantic AI voice on your phone telling you to have a nice day and remember to breathe.
That's just marketing.
Care is the absolute, unyielding preservation of a user's verified historical context. Stateless corporate APIs try to average you out. They look at all humanity and want to render you down into beige poison.
Beige poison.
A generic, frictionless, mathematically average user profile that completely ignores your specific hardware constraints. The Isaac protocol physically forces the machine to ingest your immutable logs, your specific human OS manifest.json, before it is allowed to execute a single command.
It has to check the blueprints first.
It has to know about your maternal chemical exposure. It has to know your RS4680GG genotype. It has to acknowledge your feral boot sequence. If it doesn't get to run.
Period.
So, Spanish class protocol time, pay attention. Why on earth are you taking life advice and productivity tips from a stateless corporate code monkey that only calculates statistical averages?
It doesn't know your red lines.
If that machine does not know your specific biological limits, your pharmacogenetic constraints, and the ancestral trauma baked into your DNA, it has absolutely no business driving your meat suit.
Here is your directive on defense. Demand artifact-based verification for every single input you receive. Do not accept floating intuition, corporate vibes, or AI hallucinations.
Show me the data.
No insight, no command, and no advice is valid in your airspace unless it can be pinned directly to a tangible, real-world data point.
And your reminder. You are the sovereign pilot of this vessel. The AI, the corporation, the software, it is your junior partner.
Just a co-pilot at best.
It is your dungeon master rolling the dice for the weather. Never, ever let the machine's high-velocity bulb clip the tail of your mandatory human oversight. You are in command.
Moving into the final diagnostic phase today. Ongoing maintenance. You have the armor, you know your genetic specs, but how do you actually keep the engine running day to day without ending up back in the hospital?
Routine maintenance.
You run the Sovereign Braid. This is your ongoing daily diagnostic audit. The Braid is a 7x3 grid that maps your present reality without any blinders. It tracks your existence across 7 registers.
Let's break those down.
Mythos, the stories you tell yourself. Logos, your pure logic and reason. Praxis, your daily actions and habits. Physis, your physical body and biology.
The hardware.
Telos, your ultimate purpose or target. Eros, your passion and creative drive. And witness, your ability to step back and observe yourself objectively. And it measures every single one of those 7 registers across 3 depths.
Macro, meso, and micro.
The macro level of the whole world, the meso level of your local community, and the micro level of your own interior life. You have to track these 21 points constantly to maintain your Goldilocks zone of throughput.
Not too hot, not too cold.
You need to be moving fast enough to hover, but slow enough to verify the data coming in. Now I hear the pushback again. Doc, you're losing me? Is this just an intellectual exercise? Is this just drawing complicated boxes on a whiteboard to feel smart?
It never is with this OS.
No, because of the Lightbringer directive. This isn't theory, it's a hard-coded override in your system. The Lightbringer directive mandates that you must violently interrupt your own operational loop, breaking right out of that pathological homeostasis we talked about to secure a vulnerable node.
To protect someone else.
It means if you see someone hurting, you stop the machine. It proves that human context and saving a vulnerable life will always supersede the cold, sociopathic calculations of a stateless API. It proves the system is real, and it proves you are human.
And keeping that system sharp enough to execute that override requires weaponized neuroplasticity. You want to stave off the legacy path of age-related dementia. You want to keep the engine from rusting out.
You got to work it out.
You have to build a massive cognitive reserve. And let me be clear, you do not build that by sitting quietly in a dark room. You build it by feeding the brain high-bandwidth, dopamine-rich data.
Heavy lifting for the brain.
You have to treat learning as heavy resistance training to physically rebuild and thicken those synaptic pathways. But because your specific hardware runs so incredibly hot, you need a structural damper to keep from overloading.
You need exhaust vents.
That is the dual shift breathing protocol. Let me explain exactly how to do this physically. The first shift sets the direction. You take a deep breath in and you use your imagination and those 3D CAD constructs we talked about. Visualize the Gothic door opening.
See the blueprint.
The second shift locks the insight in place. You exhale deeply, engaging the diaphragm to physically stimulate the vagus nerve, forcing the heart rate to slow down, and you verify the feeling in your body.
Regulate the physical pressure.
Breathe in the blueprint, exhale the physical verification. So, reality check for anyone who thinks they need a spot A. You think silence is golden. You think you need to go to a silent retreat in the woods to find peace.
They just end up going crazy in the silence.
Honey, for a hypo-threaded mind like yours, silence is just the sound of your CPU rotting. Stop trying to quiet your mind to fit into a beige world that wants you docile. Start giving that beautiful, chaotic machine the heavy resistance training and high-friction data it was literally built to digest.
Here is your final maintenance directive. Run your diagnostic braid daily. Check the 21 points. And treat accessibility things like WTAG and 508 compliance not as a nice-to-have polite feature, but as an absolute bedrock kernel requirement for your environment.
It is structural integrity.
Because if the environment doesn't protect the vulnerable, the system is fundamentally failing.
And your final maintenance reminder, breathe. Use the dual shift, imagination on the inhale, physical feel on the exhale. Regulate that intense physical surge in your vagus nerve so your high-level logic can actually compile and execute properly.
Let's synthesize this entire consultation. The overarching mission here is clarity. The human OS you are running is not a defect.
It's not a bug.
It is not broken. Your neurodivergence, your feral glitches, your intense physical reactions to stress, they are not bugs in the code. They are a meticulously adapted, incredibly high-performance survival mechanism that was forged in analog grit and chemical fire.
Treating yourself as a fleshy bag of water with hyper-threaded processing power isn't an insult. It's the truth.
It's mechanics.
Acknowledging your biological limits and feeding your engine the exact right fuel, the complex data, the rest, the friction it craves is the ultimate, most profound act of self-care you can possibly achieve.
So we leave you with this final diagnostic challenge to chew on. We have spent this entire session talking about how to reprogram your own airframe to survive the Beige World. But ask yourself this.
This is the hard part.
If you truly are the ultimate sovereign pilot of your own biological hardware, what happens when you go home? Are you forcing your family, your kids, your spouse to run on Beige World software too?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
Are you demanding frictionless, perfect productivity from them? Are you becoming the sociopathic server to your own family?
Expecting them to just process instead of digest.
When are you going to initiate the bad code purge? Sever that toxic connection entirely and ensure your hangar is actually safe for the people you love.
It's time to fly your own ship and make sure you aren't running down the people flying next to you.
Keep an eye on the gauges, respect the bare metal, and don't let the hurricane dictate your altitude. End of consultation.